Hello and welcome. Secret talks, backdoor channels. Would you be surprised to learn that Syria and Israel, longtime enemies, were talking peace? And not only have they been talking, but many of the key issues, such as Israel abandoning its occupation of Syria's Golan Heights, demilitarization of the border, and access to key water resources, were worked out, at least in theory. The negotiations reportedly continued through last summer at the height of Israel's military incursion into Lebanon. But UGA's displeasure with the possible Syrian-Israeli peace deals have been said to halt further progress. On today's show, we'll speak with the Syrian-American professor who was at the forefront of this process and ask him to what extent peace really is possible between Syria and its enemy Israel. And don't forget, we take your questions via mobile phone and text, and the numbers are at the bottom of your screen. Joining me now is the man, the behind-the-scenes peace negotiator Ibrahim Soliman. After his retirement in 1990, this professor, a former professor of electrical engineering, became a full-time advocate for peace between Israel and Syria. In 2004, Professor Soliman was asked to meet an Israeli counterpart in Europe for secret talks. He can tell us more about that and how things continued to develop from there. Professor, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So I'll start off by asking you, who do you officially represent?
I do not represent anyone. I represent peace. I speak for peace. I am Syrian-American. I would like to have good relations between Syria and America. The key for good relation between Syria and America is peace between Syria and Israel. I devote all my time and my resources, personal resources, to accomplish that, to have peace between Syria and Israel. And peace is possible.
Yeah, I ask you, sir, if you're not officially representing anyone, what kind of mandate do you have to actually go ahead and negotiate anything?
I did not negotiate. I was not negotiating with the Israelis. We were solving problems. I know what Israel wants. The Israelis knows what Syria wants. I know what Syria wants. I have many friends in Syria. I have many friends in America. I consult with them. I do not represent them. I did not represent the Syrian, but they know what I was doing. They know everything that I was doing, but I did not represent them or speak for them.
Now, when you say they know, the Syrians know exactly what you're doing, to what extent do you have to get approval before doing it?
I go there. I talk to my friends. I have a lot of friends in Syria, high position. I tell them what I am doing. Now, I am an American citizen. They don't stop in my way. Syria wanted peace. President Bashar al-Assad said it many, many times that he wants peace with Israel. Israel is not answering him. The United States is not answering him. It's not helping. Syria wanted peace. The United States is not doing what it should do to accomplish peace.
Now, I wonder, sir, when to what extent your contacts and your ability to have talks at this level, at least, to be able to solve problems, as you put it, comes from first your early meeting with the late President Hafez al-Assad back, I think, in 1957, and then, of course, you have a close relationship with Foreign Minister Walid Muallim. How much does that help you, having those kind of contacts?
I knew President Hafez Assad since he was a second lieutenant in Hama. I admired him. I loved the man. He was really good man to me. It's his personal feeling. He made Syria. He was the father of Syria. Syria was nothing before he came. Every year we have another revolution, another government. Every officer has few people around him, comes to the radio station, take it and have a new government. Sometimes we had two governments in Syria each year. Hafez came and brought stability and security to the country.
Of course, you face a certain amount of cynicism when it comes to certainly the West when viewing Syria. And I want to put an email question that came from Israel, actually, sir, from Zach Harrison in Ra'anana, in Israel. He says, now, Zach actually says he wants to be able to take a morning bus to Damascus and just visit, but he says he wants to know when that day is coming and says, how can you expect the Israeli people to make peace with a dictatorship that's run by an ethnic group that represents only 12% of the Syrian population? Wouldn't any agreement signed by Assad's government be illegitimate?
President Assad represents all the Syrians, not only one sect of the Syrians. He represents all the Syrians, all religions. Syria has many religions, but he is not a president for one religion or another. He is a president of all the Syrians. When he makes peace, he is making peace in the name of all the Syrians. Like his father. His father signed a peace treaty or disengagement treaty with Israel in 1974. The Syrian honors it. To this day, there was not any break of this treaty that Assad Hafiz made.
Well, Professor, take me through what happened. I mean, how this first started for you. You met with your Israeli counterpart, Dr. Alon Liel, the former Director General of Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, back in 2004 in Europe. How was that first meeting, and how did things develop from there?
I have been working with Israelis since 1990. I negotiated with people from the Rabin government. Actually, people were members of Knesset. They came here under the instruction of Rabin. Talked to me. Then negotiated after that with people representing Netanyahu, representing Barak. I have been in continuous contact with the knowledge of the Syrians, because I am free. I am an American. I do what I believe. I do not speak for the Syrians, but they know what I'm doing.
Well, interestingly enough, you used the word negotiate there, though you at the beginning you said, I don't negotiate, I solve problems. So, I mean, where does that line draw?
Well, I do not know how to do it. I'm trying to solve problems between Syria and Israel. I think the problems are solved. In a negotiation in the Y plantation, Vice President Shara and Foreign Minister Walid Ma'alem, both of them said that they solved 80% of the problems during the negotiation with Dennis Ross and the rest. The other 20%, we worked on it between 2004 and 2006, and we solved those problems. In a way, I was praised by the Syrians and the Israelis and the Americans. We found a solution to the water and the sovereignty on the Golan that is acceptable by all three parties.
Now I wonder, and I know you said you know what Israel and Syria wants, and that seems to be resolved to a large degree from what you're saying.
Yes.
And I know that you see America as being the problem to some degree, that they come in and hamper things.
Not all the Americans. There are certain people in the administration, extremists. They do not like to see peace between Syria and Israel. There are people in Israel do not like to see peace between Syria and Israel. There are people in Syria, they do not like to see peace between Syria and Israel. This is the reason we did everything in secret. Only a handful of people in Syria, Israel, and the United States knew about our work.
And I know you're very unhappy that the media, this was revealed in the media. Tell me how that happened.
I was very upset about the leak. I was invited to address the Herzliya conference in Israel, and I left here I got to Switzerland, to Zurich, on January 16th. I was met at the airport by the officials from the Swiss government. They drove me to Bern, the capital. We were having lunch, and all of a sudden, one of the officials there came. He said, "Hey, look, your work here in Switzerland has become public." I was very, very upset. I called Syria and I called Israel. I decided not to continue to Israel. I changed my ticket and returned to the United States the next day.
What's the problem with it being in the public domain? Surely you would get the rallying of those who want to see peace behind you.
To have peace, you have to have all the pieces of the puzzle in place secretly, because as long the media is involved, then both sides cannot compromise. Neither side can compromise because they're afraid. But this is the reason we said we solved the problems. Our first meeting in Switzerland, in Bern, Switzerland, I had a paper, drawn 7-page paper, I put together. I said, listen, guys, there were 3 Israelis, 1 American, myself, and our host. I said, listen, I am here to solve the problem between Syria and Israel. I'm not here to negotiate with you. Here is my proposal. It's a very hard proposal, but let's work on it to take one thing at a time, work on it together, and find a solution that satisfies both sides. They agreed. I said, if you do not want to work with me, I'll walk away. They did, and we did a beautiful job. I believe the solution for peace between Syria and Israel is here. We do not need a peace process anymore. We need only leadership decision between Syria and Israel, of course supported by the United States.
With Israel in the sort of political turmoil internally as it is now, what real chance is there of any of what you've achieved in your negotiations and your deeds of understanding, as you call them, coming to light, to actually being concrete?
I believe Israel and Syria and the United States are missing a great opportunity for peace. I believe the United States and Syria must work together for it. United States needs Syria, and Syria needs the United States. These 2 countries must work together, not boycott each other.
What has made you come public? You've kept a low profile. You haven't talked about it.
I did not choose to become public.
Now that it's public, what made you decide to speak to the media? Why have you joined me, for example?
I have not done before. That's a good question I really cannot answer. I do not know why I agreed to speak with you, because Al Jazeera got in touch with me, called me from Qatar. They wanted so much to interview me, and I said no. Many other media wanted to interview me, and I said no. I just wanted things to die down. I believe there is still a chance for peace. I believe we can have peace within 6 months between Syria and Israel if the United States keep its word and work with us.
How much has the success that you've achieved in these sort of quiet talks, these quiet problem-solving sessions, been dependent on your personal relationship with Dr. Alon Liel, your Israeli counterpart?
Well, I have good friends in Israel, and they know that I will do anything for peace. And I sacrificed a lot by going to Israel and appearing in the Knesset. They invited me to Knesset, and I addressed them. I am so happy that I went. The committee is 20 people in the Knesset. 18 of them were present. The other 2 they came to see me when I visited the Holocaust Museum, to say that they are sorry they're not going to be there when I am there because they were going to Azerbaijan. I was warned before I went to Israel. An Israeli official came to my home with an American. Both of them came have breakfast with me in my home. And they said, Abe, don't go to Israel. They're going to tear you into pieces in the Knesset. I said, well, I wanted peace. I will sacrifice. I was told from Syria in the last minute, don't go. But I did go because I believe with what I'm doing. I believe they are wrong for both of them saying to me, don't do it. I'm glad I did it. The Israelis were excellent. They gave me good feeling that the Israeli people wanted peace too.
Of course, you know, a lot of people do feel cynical. As I mentioned earlier, we had an email that came from Michael Jones in Aberystwyth in Wales in Britain. And he says, how can there be peace when all the talking is done with bullets? The only answer is to keep everyone away and put the relevant leaders in a room and tell them to talk peace.
Bullets never solve problems. Talk solve problems. The United States and Syria must start talking. They must They are the key. Syria is ready for peace. President Bashar Assad said it many, many times. Al-Muallim said it. Shara said it. All of them. The Syrian people wanted peace. The Israeli people want peace. I visited the Golan Heights. This is not the first visit I went to Israel. I went before, quietly, and I visited the Golan Heights. I talked to the people in Katsrin. There is no problem for peace between Syria and Israel. Only need leadership decision.
Well, sir, we have an email question that just came in from Imtiaz in Saudi Arabia, and I'll put it to you. It's just rough, but I'll try and tell you. It says, Ibrahim Soliman is himself accepting he's not Syrian, then how will he understand Syrian problems? He's American and will support America and Israel. Do you think it's possible to have peace if the Palestinian conflict is resolved? And will Syria give up support for Palestine if Israel negotiates peace with Syria?
I never said I am not Syrian. I am Syrian-American. I was born in Syria and very, very proud with my birthplace. My homeland is very dear to me. And I am very proud with the countries that I adopted. I wanted these two countries to be friends. I'm doing everything in my power to bring Syria and Israel to be friends and talk to each other. President Hafiz Assad encouraged me to do so. President Bashar, the same thing.
Well, Professor, I know you're heading off to Europe next week. We're out of time in this debate, but I do hope we can get you back when you return from that trip to find out exactly how those talks in Europe go next week.
Be glad to.
Thank you, sir. Professor Ibrahim Soliman there. Thanks for being with us. On tomorrow's show, we'll be joined by author Stephen Kinzer with a look at long-held secrets of the CIA and documents which have just been declassified. Don't forget, if you have questions regarding this or other issues, send an email to riz@aljazeera.net. And we'll see you next time. Street Talk is next.